Okay, so here is this additional illustrated reply to the question about the club foot. So this is where we've got these x-rays, fancy ones. So the ones which are showing the twist, see and you have both the twist of the heel bone, right, and the relative twist around the talar. So what does that mean, right? So you see that means that we've got this rotation, this rotation, this rotation, this rotation, right? And then of course here it also means that there is this expansion, this expansion, that expansion downwards, and that expansion here. So how do you control the ankle in the normal scenario? In the normal scenario, the main controller of the ankle comes from the toes. Like, why from the toes? It comes from the toes for a simple reason that this is the sequence of the development, right? So we go back here. So the development of the hand, the development of the foot. So you see these developments, they always start like this. They start from the digits. So the digits control. So you see in the beginning, okay, so this is the picture of the hand, but in the beginning you can see here that the wrist itself is formed much later. It's later, 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 later. The same thing. The actual ankle and even the bones there, right? So you see the formation of the bones. That is much, 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 much later. So in fact, it's the toes, the spread, and so on between them that defines the control. And for the toes, of course, what you have those things. You have the tendons, right? So you see here you can have it very clearly. So you see it's all about the tendons, 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 tendons. So, and then we go back to this. So you see these are the tendons, but here you also see those bands, right? Those retinacular, superior extensor retinacular and inferior. So that, what does it mean superior and inferior? That there are two lines of them, right? So, and again, this is the picture which shows them at the best. And this is really the key. So when you put it into this context, where is that? Where was that? Yeah, that was the foot, right? Yeah, into this context. So then you understand that, okay, you need to have the digits to control the transition to the leg. Why? Because you see, there are two processes here. One process is the process that goes from the digits and grows into the body. The other process is it starts from the shoulder and it grows over. Now, again, you see here, this is the hand, this is the leg. It's exactly the same process. So here you see the femur, here you see the humerus. It's exactly the same map for the legs and for the toes. Now, the thing is, what is so critical for the feet? Why they develop the club feet part? Because for the foot to develop well, what do you need to have? The feet of the baby, they surround the umbilical cord of the mother. So that pulsation that the mother has really feeds the feet. And if for whatever process, maybe the foot was a little bit too far, maybe the pulsation wasn't as intense, maybe something was there in between, so that part which feeds the connection that grows from the foot, with that extension of the foot itself, didn't materialize. But the part of growing of the legs from the body, that part worked. But from that relationship that goes from the top, this is the case. So you see, this is the link that descends from the top, and this is the connection. This is the connection leg to foot. And the club feet people, they're the ones where this is completely derailed. So they are very, very stiff there. So it's a stiffening of this part, which just deals with the factor that the toes have never really materialized. So therefore, all the bones, they drift, all the bones of the ankle, they just drift to the position of their maximum stability. So this one rotates inwards, 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 here outwards, outwards, outwards. So therefore, that creates the limiting factor. And that's pretty much it. Now, what happens? This problem is mischaracterized as the problem of the foot, whilst in fact, it's a problem of the entire leg. And you can see here, the meaningful part is cut off. The meaningful part, the presence of the retinacular, is cut off. It's not on the picture. So they're only looking at the alignments over there as if that was providing any kind of information. Well, it's not. So you see, this is the process. This is a maximum stability, right? So you see, this is the maximum stability. This is the foot that naturally follows the leg in the presence or in the absence of the counter stabilizer, which comes as the tendon development and again the retinacular between the toes, which make the foot wide. That's what's missing there. That's the essence of the club foot. All these x-rays and so on, this is really like not providing much of the information, because this is just kind of telling you, okay, the bones are in this position. So what? The bones are moved by something, right? So you see, and there, especially in the foot, if you look at this map, there's not much of the muscles as such, right? So you see over there, what you see in first place, it's very tendinous. So it's all about tendons, all about this fascia retinaculum and so on. But you might ask, like, how is that working? In fact, it's not very difficult to understand. Let's go back to this basic picture of the fascia layers. And here you can see, right? So you see, what is the central message of the fascia perspective? They say, hey guys, historically you've been only looking at the muscles and you're looking at the bones stripped of any soft tissues. The reality is more advanced, right? So you see, in that sense, you've got the skin, you've got the fat, you've got the fabric of the muscles, right? So you see, which is also having this film-like layers there. Then it's the deep fascia, and then it's the periosteum of the bone, right? Not even the bone itself, the wrapping of the bone. So that's what works, right? But this is a kind of principal layers which I identified there. Now, once you see this, to help you with the visualization, I do this little move. See, we twist it like this, right? So you see now, imagine this is a very thin ankle, right? So you see, this is the ankle. There's not much fat on the ankle, right? So what's happening there? That's more like looking like a leg. And here you've got that line, which has, so okay, so let's assume the foot is there, right? So you see, you've got the line which works like this at approximately that level, which divides the skin and fat from the muscular level. So if you take those circles and just kind of put one into another, right? And then you get more of them, so and so on. So what happens? Well, quite obviously, the first mobility that these guys have is rotation in respect to one another. So in other words, the thinnest bone, the thinnest circle moves inside the thicker one, moves inside the thicker one, moves inside the thicker one, and so on. But when it comes to torsion, to this rotation, which layer is the most important? Is it the layer of the bones or is it the layer of the skin? Well, the answer is the layer which is there has the greatest perimeter. So the layer that has the greatest perimeter is, of course, the layer of the skin. And then we also understand that if you think about the build and compare the bone with the periosteum, with the skin, with its own collagen base, so from the collagen density perspective, the skin and the periosteum, they're about the same. But the skin is positioned in the right way because that's the one which is wider. That's why it's controlling the torsion. So that's why the activity or the role of those diagonal lines of the retinaculum is so critical. And, we'll when look at Eker, we're going to see that this is exactly the thing. This is blocked, this is fused, and then the foot just follows. So unlocking the foot, itself requires this part, which precedes the visible mobile ankle. But the problem is, here at all the x-rays, you don't see much about it. And then here you look at only this part, right? So you can't visualize it, and then you have all these twists and just the relationship of the bone, and here it's even cut. And you don't even, from these cuts, you don't even know what is the rotation of the bone, what is a membrane connecting the bones, how it's going from the toes all the way here and then rises to the knee. None of this information, you don't have. So that's really the case. Now, let me give you, I told you that we have several examples. I kind of get a quick search and I looked at this, I have this file with me. So this is the kid who had a really better progress, but unfortunately, in between there, he had this trouble with the big seizures and growth spurt at the same time. So he's really stiffened a lot. But nonetheless, it's a good enough example to show what's going on. So you see what I'm doing. Look at my hand movement. See, I am testing this rotation of the leg in respect to the foot. And you can see here that shows those grooves which would be corresponding to the location of the retinaculum. So that's, and again, thanks to ABR, this has been unlocked. The leg became thicker and this level has been unlocked. Now, if you look further, you see that's a typical club foot. You see that's why when you try to move him by the foot and this area is still not mobile enough, then you can see how moving the foot moves the entire leg. But it's happening because the foot itself doesn't have any toes activity, doesn't have any toes participation. So what do we need to have as a critical step? As a critical step, we need to establish those levels here. So then you would have this presence of the retinacula, where during this movement, you are not going to move the rest of the leg, and you are just going to rotate the foot above the ankle. That's the whole trick. Again, this boy, we don't have it at full yet. So we had it better, it got partially lost. And you see here, but anyway, if you look at this scenario, you can see that it's not completely locked, that I can do this quite easily, moving the foot. And then this is a critical test. See, this is a critical test. When the person is in the bad club foot situation, what you cannot do this. You cannot plant the foot onto the ground. And that's what you need to test. You need to test. You see, we talked about it. It's the two-way process. From the leg, it has to descend and start integrating the leg. From the toes, it has to ascend and start linking to the leg. This is a two-way process. So this test is critical. And in fact, what you're looking at, right? You're seeing that if we were to take this position of the foot, what we need to do, we need to change the position here all the way from the hip so that the leg would be there, right? So you see, that's really what you want to get as the anti-club foot thing. So, and with this kid, you see, this actually becoming the foot which is being able to grip to the ground and do all these things. And here I'm showing, see, I'm showing that this is not taking a big effort. You see, like, this foot easily goes onto the side. So it's still, if left alone, can easily goes onto the side because this is such a habitual position. But we can put it like this, and from here, see, it's very easy to plant it this way. And it's not that I need to put much force there to keep it this way, right? So you see, actually, I can just let it go, and you can see that it actually stays. But also what you see on this view, you see this other thing, is that this is showing you how it's going in context of the entire position of the entire leg. So you see both of them rotate outwards. And now here I'm testing the opposite thing, right? I'm testing, okay, how well the two legs are rotating the other way around. And we can see it doesn't work so well the other way around. So that's clearly the visible things. And you see here, that's where it drops. And then you see that's why this leg is a lot more, blocked, right? So because this parts, the rotation here is worse than the rotation that way. So, but here you see, for example, this leg, we can put not only the toes, but we can put it all the way to the heel, but cannot really connect it to the leg. But here you can see that we have a lot less, right? I can only put the bottom of the toes, but not the other part there. So, but still, here you can see that his ankle, and this is the ankle, which is the ankle, like those, the tarsal bones, right? So you can still see that those are not blocked. So again, and this is the kid who doesn't do much ABR, right? So you see they have extremely difficult family circumstances, whatever. The father who has left, this, it's if she does 1 hour a day and like a little bit of the wrapping, so that's maximum that she's able to do. But even that, with the Vibra tools, was able to unlock the feet quite well. And this is a demo here from the top, which is showing that, you see, it doesn't walk alone. In fact, it's very small pelvis, and this imbalance descends all the way. Now, one more thing is that this kid, that's on opposite. This is a kid who had a very lucky combination, So he has been unlocking very well. So in the past, he had the foot which was kind of not fully clubbed, but clubbed enough. So he was hurting a lot on the outer side of the foot and so on. But then, also with 1 hour and a half a day, they work every day, but maybe 30 minutes on the hand, 30 minutes on the foot, 30 minutes on the body. So he has been transforming very well. And what I'm showing here, I'm showing the importance of this, right? How important is this to get this area thick? So it has to thicken. So as the fill up this part, so that the control of the leg descends towards the foot. And also we can see with this kid that once we started to reconnect the foot there, what happens with the club foot, the key mobility starts going the standard way. It starts going into the way of the preference of the big toe. So it becomes more the flattish foot rotated there. So that's why I started with. I said that club feet are not, okay, here you have the flat foot, here you have the club foot. No, club foot is several orders of magnitude worse because it's a complete disconnect. It doesn't have the toes, doesn't have any foot, so it's disconnected above the ankle. That's why it goes into the club foot scenario. So that's really the key understanding. Now, if this explanation is not showing you that I kind of understand what we are dealing with better than anybody else, well, I mean, that's okay, right? So, but the thing is, this is my message, is that overall, now, what we are looking for? We are looking for the fact that those parts, and this is the thing. Once we understand this and realize, why it's so badly collapsed, because there are 27 bones of the feet and all the links with them completely undertrained throughout the in utero period. So he didn't have any good contact, good feed, which was coming there from the umbilical cord to shape the membranes between the toes. So that's why the amount of work that we need to do there is very, very large. But this is what I'm pointing out, that now with the vibrostations, if we use a bigger vibrostation there and then another vibrostation there, so with the mini balls we can have also the applications here, we connect it with the foot, so we can put the vibrostations around the entire foot, so we can start waking up those 27 bones. That's the opportunity that we're really having. And of course, that's what I was talking about before, that, a standard scenario with the club foot implies you don't have the activity of the toes, you don't have the connection that works here all the way from the toes to the knee. So typically that's a relatively collapsed knee. And also, as we saw over here, the whole thing goes also in the package of the connection at the hip. So you see, you need to calibrate those and get the stability there. So that's what you need in order to deal with the club feet. But if you have the patience and presence, so again, I think that now we are in a very, very new situation where we can really deliver the bulk of this work. So where you can, like, connect the ball during the sleep time. You can connect the ball during whatever, the studies time or something. So you can really create. It's not difficult to create whatever. I don't know, 6, 8, I mean, let's put 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 hours of the applications around it. It's not difficult. And if you are able to create this kind of stations presence, bam, then you're going to have a very good scenario, right? You have a very good like progress of the foot. But these are the tests. These are the tests which are indicating which you need to film, in order to track the progress. Not standing position, not anything else. These positions, how well you can do this, what happens when you get, how stable the foot is there, how well it holds on, right? So you see how much it rolls over. So these are the things that you need to be looking at as the primary tests when evaluating the club foot, how deep is the club foot and how well it progresses. Okay, so I guess that's the explanation, and voila. So as I said, even if you don't have the patience and say, well, you know what, we're going to do the surgery there, because again, once you understand this, where the disconnect is, stretching the foot is like stupidest thing. It's not going to give any really meaningful results. But surgery, of course, you can chop the bones, you can kind of fuse them together. You're not going to have the feet working, but you can make a block out of it. Possible. And if the channel has a decent what's the name of it? Decent hip, well, you can kind of go around it. But then my point is this: you always need the activation of this surface. So ABR, Vibra Tools makes it easy, allows you to integrate even the post-surgical thing. And you see again, for the club feet, people know that overall I'm very like skeptical about the surgeries and so on. But club fit, I mean, especially in the past, I told people, you see, it's an incredible, it's enormous amount of work, and it's very, very, and because you're really missing the food. So that's why I always told people, if you don't have the patience, do the surgery. We're going to help you with the integration of the food better than anybody else. But if you do have the patience, if you want to try it with the new tools, I think that if you start doing it this way, like within a year, we will be able to achieve quite significant progress of this kind, right? And that's why I'm doing this explanation, because, again, historically, the club food has been very, very challenging without the Vibro tools, and with the Vibro tools, it's really becoming very, very possible. So that's why I'm very keen to kind of get more families with club feet, and especially the ones who are ready to work, so that we would be able to really like establish a new chapter in ABR and overcome one of the difficulties which we had historically, simply, because of dealing with this mega deficit. All right. I hope this helps. Cheers.